makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode, I have the privilege of sitting down with Susan Bash Van Vleet, an esteemed figure in the corporate world and a true advocate for women's success. As the founder and CEO of Susan Van Vleet Consultants Inc. and V-Squared Consulting Inc., Susan has worked with Fortune 500 companies worldwide, addressing key HR issues and driving positive change. Join me as I explore an inspiring journey, her impactful work for women in corporations, and the insight she has to share. Susan, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk with you today. So can you tell us about your journey and how you become involved in the field of training and consultant?
Yes, I started out as a social worker and have a master's degree from Rutgers University in that and practiced that profession for about 10 years before I started working for a small international educational corporation, and did training for them all over the United States and also in Europe. And it was a really kind of an interesting kind of field. And I had never thought I would do anything other than traditional social work. I'm now called a non-traditional social worker, so I'm still a social worker, but I'm doing work that isn't traditionally done by social workers. And I'm dealing a lot now. After I started my first company, I started working with corporations, very large corporations. So the first large corporation I dealt with was McDonald's Corporation, the hamburger people.
The hamburger.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. But I guess that you fall in love with your work. That's the reason why you stay within it for such a long time.
Yeah, I'm 76 years old, and I've been running these companies for about 44 years.
Don't tell anyone it's a secret.
Yeah. Well, you do what you want to do to support people. You live a purposeful life, and that always gives you more longevity than you would have if you don't. And I'm one of the few women who continues to run her own company into her late 70s.
Which is amazing. I hope that I can reach that age and still doing that, because a lot of us, even by the age of 60, we are unable to do almost anything because our body seems to be giving up so fast.
Yeah, and you have to, I train for my workshops because some of our workshops are very strenuous to lead, but I train physically. So I swim 3 days a week, 80 minutes at a time, and I do some weightlifting as well, which is helpful. As you get older, you lose more muscle mass, so you have to keep giving yourself more to do in terms of developing muscle mass, and that keeps me able to do what I'm doing.
I cannot wait to go see you, because I can lose some pounds. God knows, some push up out there.
Yeah.
So now
you don't look like you need to lose pounds at all, by the way. So you're fine.
Thank you. So what inspired you to start your own companies?
I was getting really tired of making money for other people, and I wanted to build a company that was based on the values and practices that I had started as a social worker. So I decided to do my own company instead. And that's what inspired me. And I also didn't like what was available to women at the time. So way back 44 years ago, the only two courses that were available to women were assertiveness training, which was kind of a made-up thing to not be aggressive, for women not to be aggressive. Man's point of view of that. Oh, yeah. And then the other one was dress for success. So you had to make sure you wore navy blue or black suits if you were on the East Coast, and on the West Coast, you could get away with a tan suit, but only on the West Coast. It was really strange. It was very, very strange training. And I thought, women have so much that we bring to the table that I'd really like to develop a training for women to do more of that. And so Women Moving Forward was born, and I developed the course and started leading them in 1977. I'm sorry, 1979. And
Did you say 1979?
Exactly. Yep. And since that time, Women Moving Forward has been done all over the world for women working in mostly major corporations, but also women doctors, women lawyers, who are working all over the world in many different continents. We've done 3 in China, mainland China. We've done 2 in Singapore, and several in Eastern Europe and Western Europe. And in South America, we've done 18 to 19 in South America, Central America, Mexico, and also North America and here in the United States. So all over the world.
So do you have to travel to all of these places to give the training?
Yes, I traveled. Normally we do the course in what would be considered a central location for the company we're working for. And they bring the women in from all over to that central location. So, for example, for Coca-Cola, it was Shanghai, and they brought women in from India and Malaysia, all over Asia for Coca-Cola, and for Procter and Gamble, it was Singapore.
So, how does it feel to travel so many different part of the world and see so many different cultures? It's like different women talk differently, act differently, dress differently, look differently. How does that feel?
And have different accents too. So in the workshop in Singapore, the greatest issue I had was not delivering the workshop to the women, but when I was listening very intently to them as they were speaking and going around the room, each woman had a different accent from a different part of the world. So I had to shift my listening to that particular accent after having been through the one before. So it's really a challenge. But not in terms of the content. The content seems to be culture-less. It actually deals with women and the issues women have on every culture all over the world in every language.
Can you imagine that we all as women are facing the exact same issues, regardless how we send the message out, it's the exact same problems?
Exactly. It's amazing to me to see that that's true. Having women from all of these different cultures, it is amazing to me that a woman is a woman is a woman. We all have the imposter syndrome. We all feel like we have never done anything perfectly in our lives. We all feel like we have to work harder, not smarter, but harder, and put in more hours in order to be okay and accepted. We all feel like we have to prove ourselves over and over and over again. And I can tell you that blessedly with age, that all lessens. So at 76, I don't care anymore what people think. I'm pretty much free of that issue. And so it comes with a maturation process for women, but all women in every culture have those same issues. It's amazing.
Do you think that instead of waiting to hit certain age to okay, I don't care how people think I look, I'm still going to look fabulous for myself, but I don't really care about what they said. Do you think that we can change our mindset at a younger age, let's say like early 30s?
Yes.
We can start switching that to say it's okay to be me and I love me. That's all that's matter.
Yes. And I've done that in the Women Moving Forward workshop in 3 days. So we have 3 days with these women, and they have to give up their phones and turn off all their electronic equipment and just be in the workshop for the 3 days. And what they get by the 3rd day is the realization that who they are is good enough and that they can actually use the skills and talents they have to actually build a better career and a better family.
So what else in that workshop do you deliver to us as women?
Yeah, the other thing that we talk about is setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is a really big issue, especially these days. And a lot of what you're setting boundaries for is for yourself as well as for everybody else around you. So for women in major corporations, which is a lot of the women I deal with, they have to set boundaries on how much time they will give. So if they're in a multinational company, then what they have to do is say that if they have international responsibility, that on Monday they'll speak to Asia, and on Tuesday or Wednesday they'll speak to Europe, as opposed to doing both, on Monday, do Europe and Asia, because that means you're up 24 hours is what that means. So you have to set boundaries, even small boundaries, like get up from your desk at 4:30, 5 o'clock and leave. You have to set those kinds of boundaries. And if you're able to do that, 80% of the time, because there are emergencies everywhere. So there are times when you will not be able to do that. But if you're able to do that, then that's good. That's actually a win. If you can do that 4 out of 5 days or 3 out of 5 days. And what we also have women understand is that the work at the company will never be done. It will all be piling up on your desk no matter what you do. So it doesn't matter if you clean your desk today. By the next morning, you'll have 300 emails. So it doesn't really matter. So it's probably a good idea to get up and go home or go do something you enjoy doing or have dinner with friends or do something with your children if you have children. All of that's what women need to attend to, because a woman without a full life is not a very, how do I want to say that, effective woman. If you can't have a full life with friends and family and everything around you, then you really have a very narrow life and you start getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's not good for women.
And it seems like that listening to you, we need to learn how to balance all of it equally.
Yeah, what I like to say, having had 2 children, a husband, and started 2 businesses, I can pretty much say there is no such thing as balance anywhere in the natural universe. And women are now striving for this thing called balance. I see them every day in my workshops. There is no such thing as balance. You just hope that you're able to juggle everything that you've taken on, all the different roles you've taken on. Like I hoped every morning that the school wouldn't call about one of my children. That was my hope every morning.
Sometimes that happened.
Yeah, I knew if that happened, then everything would be off balance for the entire day. So don't search for balance, search for the ability to do your roles and then get people in to support you. So if you can afford it, and I say that because a lot of women cannot, and a lot of women are single mothers and cannot afford it, one of the things I recommend is that you look at what are the support systems around you, and can you bring into play some of those support systems? Like we just this morning took my grandson to a play class that he was in, and then took him to daycare afterwards. So if you have grandparents around, or people who can act as grandparents, you can use them to help you maneuver around the day and all of the requirements of your day to support you in what you're doing and all the roles that you have. Start looking for support systems that can support you. And for those of you who are financially able, please don't clean your own house. Please don't. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I said this in one of the workshops that I did last month or 2 months ago down in Florida. And a woman that I spoke to recently called me and said, I just want you to know I got a cleaning service in my house every other week, and it's the best thing I've ever done for myself. It's better than exercise.
You're welcome.
Yeah. For some reason, we think we have to do everything ourselves. Yes. And we really need to start delegating some of this stuff to our support system. And if you don't have a support system, then spend your extra time, if you have any, building a support system.
So now, do you think that will help with burnout?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, we have to get over being perfect in every role we're in. You just can't do it. On some day, you're going to be the brunt of everyone's jokes, so you might as well just get used to it. And on some days, you'll be fine. Everything will kind of click and it'll be fine. But on those days when it doesn't, you can't start beating yourself up for that you did something wrong. It's just a day that's a bad day. And for some reason, we think we have to be perfect everywhere at every moment. And that's just not true. And so yes, the burnout gets stopped when you realize that you're human and sometimes you will make mistakes.
So what can we do and those bad days.
Yeah, on the bad day, you just have to put one foot in front of the other and clean up the mess.
That's the hard part, isn't it?
The hard part. And sometimes you have to say, I'm sorry, or I failed, or whatever it is. Sometimes you have to verbally state that. On the other hand, after you've cleaned up the mess or said you were sorry, you need to sit down and take a look at, okay, now how can I do that different? But not like, oh, I'm a horrible, terrible person. I wasn't perfect today over here. But as a person who's attempting to get better at what they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I think that this conversation, women are going to love it, because I think not a lot of people say it to us, and people should be, but they don't, because they're afraid how we will react, what we will say. And sometimes people around us, they'll say, hey, slow down, take a day for yourself, enjoy it. And we need to do these things for ourselves, because when we have kids, they are looking over what we are doing. It's like we are modeling. We're modeling that for them. So we need to be the best role model that we can be as possible, so that they don't make the same mistakes we are making.
Yes, exactly. And we don't do that enough for ourselves. As a social worker, I was forced to take time, especially if I was on call at night for emergencies. The suicide hotline, or a child having been abused, or whatever. We would each divvy up the week and take a particular evening and be on call. And right after you're on call, then you come in late the next day. And it was mandated by the agency that I worked for that that's what you did, because it was recognized that the work that you were doing was important work. And if you didn't take time for yourself, you wouldn't be able to continue at the same level that if you had taken time for yourself. So when you work with human beings, you have to take mandated time. It's not, and you have to mandate it for yourself, because again, your company will never mandate it for you. If you want to work 24/7 for your company, they will allow you to do it. It's not rocket science. You're the one who has to say, okay, I'm taking off.
But what happened to the companies that people, as women, we work with, that's just demanding, that just, hey, I need this in my decks by 5 p.m., but they know that it's impossible for you to complete that work by 5 p.m., which means you will need to stay longer, 3-4 hours to complete it.
Yes, or take it home and do it after the kids are asleep if you have children, or do it at home eating your dinner out of a box that you've ordered from, and doing your work. And that's what a lot of women do 24/7. And I'm here to tell you, and I say this to women all the time in workshops, you will not live to be my age if you keep doing that.
I want to be your age.
And you do need to push back on your companies. You do need to say to your boss, hey, I can't keep this up. And most companies don't want you to leave. They're desperate for you to stay.
Yes.
In fact, the statistics that I just read yesterday from one of the studies that was done, I can't remember if it was the Deloitte study or the McKinsey study, but one of those two studies said that for every woman that's promoted to a director level or above, 2 women leave. 2 women leaders leave. And if that's true, then that's because of the way companies are structured and the way they make us do our work, that we have to do it 24/7. I mean, we take a break in our Women Moving Forward workshop for lunch, and we force women to go and have lunch for like an hour to an hour and 15 minutes every workshop day. And they all look at me like I'm crazy, because they think lunch is going to be brought in and we're going to work straight through lunch. And I keep saying, no, this is not a way to live. This is also not a way to work. You cannot be effective long-term doing this, and it will show up in your body. You will get symptoms, headaches, not being able to sleep, backaches, all kinds of things that are directly related to work. There's a very good book I can recommend to all the women out there called Dying for a Paycheck.
I read that one.
Yeah, which I recommend you read, because it really is from a man a professor, who sits on the boards of many tech industries, And he's pretty much saying to these companies, the only reason your cost for healthcare is going up is because of the way that you work people.
You work them too hard. So
Yes.
now I know that you do workshops you work with this organization. Do you also advise them on the things that they can implement to support women in a better way?
Yes, we do a lot of that. We do a lot of work with particularly vice presidents, some CEOs, on how they can structure the company so that it works for women. And this is everything from don't have meetings at 7 a.m. to don't have meetings at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So if you want women who have children to work for you, that's what they're going to be looking for. And also very important these days since the pandemic is have hybrid work environments. So make sure that your company, except for those jobs where people must be on site, also offer a more creative way of working called hybrid, where sometimes you're working from home and sometimes you're working in the office.
So now let's start talking a bit more about your companies. Susan Van Vleet, I hope I'm saying, I know that's your name.
It's actually, I took my husband's name, which was Van Vleet, and it's Dutch. His whole family came from the Netherlands, so a long time ago, but they did. And so Van Vleet is Dutch, and it's really hard to say. So it's Susan Van Vleet Consultants Incorporated. Except for, by the way, when we were in the Netherlands and they saw the name, it was like, oh, this is wonderful. Welcome.
But I love the name. So my name is also difficult, so yes. I'm used to that.
Yeah, so now I know that. Yeah, you must be very used to it.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the company itself? And I know that you have two of them in general, but we're going to start with that one. Also, I know you have V Squared Consultant Inc. as well.
Yes.
So what are some of the products and the services that the company itself, both company provide?
Yes. Well, Women Moving Forward was the first product out of Susan Van Vleet Consultants Inc. And then we added on a course called Productive Relationships, which is a communications course, particularly for managers. And then we have a course that's most popular today because so many companies are reorganizing. And that's called Managing Corporate Change. And that course has been done all over the world as well as Productive Relationships. But we've helped many different companies, particularly in acquisitions, divestitures, downsizings, whatever you want to call it. That's part of what we've done. We've worked on large projects and small projects in that arena. And then we have many other programs that have been built at the request of the companies that we work with. And we will design something just for them or design one of our courses to meet their needs, that kind of thing. We'll design a hybrid for them is what we call it. And then we have 3 stages for women. So we have Women Moving Forward. We have Advanced Women Moving Forward, which is really about what is your purpose in life and how to live a more purposeful life, and also helping you get rid of all these horrible things you call yourself, your declarations about yourself that keep you stuck. And then we have our highest level course for women is called the Women's Leadership Retreat, which we do once a year. And it's for 12 to 14 women from different companies coming together. They have to be director level or above, and they can have conversations and trust each other to have the conversations that they can't have necessarily inside their companies. So it's really a really wonderful place for them to have some downtime. We insist that they each have at least one spa service. And then we have them working together in a lot of different ways so that they can use each other and support each other.
Not just have you been all my life, Susan?
You've been hiding. So Susan Van Vleet Consultants has expanded greatly since the 1970s, 1979. And is now, we also have, and this gets me into the V Squared company, we also have distributors. So we have 5 distributors who have been licensed to market, sell, and we have then taught them to be trainers of our courses. So they've been certified to lead our training programs. And so they're out all over the world. One of our distributors is going to be going to Geneva in the next couple months. And another one of our distributors will probably be going to Belgium next year. And another one has been to South America and Europe. So we have these distributors who are also doing our work because John and my husband works for me, by the way. So John joined my company about 4 years after we started, and he works for me. And I told him he had to make at least $50,000 the first year he worked for me, or he couldn't stay. And he did.
That's my type of girl.
And I've only fired him a couple of times since then. So
You're fired.
He likes to say that that when he gets in bed with his wife, sometimes his boss shows up.
Honey, are you the boss or are you the wifey right now? So I know how to approach you.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so to have the distributors, we developed a second company called V Squared Consulting, which actually is the one that we license distributors out of. And then we manage them out of that company.
So pretty much it's the same programs and courses you have inside of the first company, which is in the second. The only difference is in the second one, it's not you that's delivering the course, but it's some different companies that's doing it in your company behalf.
Yes, exactly. And we're very happy to entertain the conversation with people who have been through our courses. We want them to have been through at least one course before they ask us about becoming a distributor. But we're happy to have the conversation with people about becoming a distributor and what the requirements are.
Is that something that you're still open to now, or you close it for now?
We feel like it's our responsibility. It's my husband's and my responsibility because we're both older to make sure this work goes on. So we're continuing to look for new distributors, and we're particularly interested in having people of color and minorities as part of our distributorship. So, yeah,
I love it. I think that, Susan, as a woman of color myself, that is something that we're born with it. It's like, for us, it's the normal life to be in burnout, to always handle 50,000 things at once. Exactly. And we can't complain about it, because if we complain about it, we're just being bossy, or we're just being a bad girl at this point for complaining about it. And I think that that's something that if we as callers can pass on that message to one another, I think that's something that will help a lot, especially we face a lot of health issues, mental health issues to be correct. And the reason why we face that is because we burn out for years and years. We deal with a lot and we don't talk.
You're dealing with the constant micro and sometimes macro aggressions against you as a woman of color. And on top of that, you have to do the job. So of course you're going to burn out. I mean, the amount of time you have to spend protecting yourself, as well as your family in some cases too. I mean, like the talk you have to have with children, with Black children, is incredibly, how do I want to say, stressful just to have that talk alone. So the added stress that's on you from all the discrimination is a part of what then makes it much more difficult. So you would burn out faster. I mean, I have dealt with a lot of women of color who have retired and now have a form of PTSD because of everything that happened to them.
It's a lot. If you've been to a Black community, a color community, you will understand that it's a lot. And then you're not able to talk about it, especially if you start talking about mental health. You start talking about this type of thing, they're looking at you like, there's nothing wrong with you.
Just pick yourself up and dust yourself off and keep going. That's kind of what, And sometimes you can't keep going, and sometimes you need help.
Exactly. Sometimes we do need help. And I think if we can get more callers to actually go out there and teach that, I think the message will go out even better, because we trust a lot more when it's someone, oh, you actually went through that, Gus? You did that? Oh, okay, then I guess I can too. I'll give it a try. But if you a different color come, you're going to be like, yeah, you were taught to do that. Yeah. No, thank you.
I'll tell you a funny story. Two of the women who had taken the Women Moving Forward course and didn't know that they each took it, women of color who had taken it, and one was in Geneva and one was someplace else. I think it was Belgium, and they went to a regional meeting of their company, and one of them said something that sounded slightly like Women Moving Forward to the other one. And she went up and said, "Hey, I've taken Women Moving Forward. Have you taken Women?" And they were hugging, each other at the end because they had both taken Women Moving Forward. And they realized that, yeah, a lot of what was said was, part of that by the one woman was part of her realization out of taking Women Moving Forward about how she had to push back on the company in meetings and take care of herself. And so that was really interesting that they found each other.
Yes.
They were both U.S. based, but were living for
different countries.
Yeah.
I love it. So now let's talk a little bit about your books.
Yes, there are two.
Yes, you authors 2 books, Women Moving Forward and Managing Corporate Change.
Well, Managing Corporate Change isn't out yet. We're still writing it. But we've authored Women Moving Forward, the 12 Years of the Women's Leadership Retreat, and Women Moving Forward Over the Years. So Women Moving Forward Over the Years is a compilation of all of the newsletters that we wrote for women with interesting articles for women on how to deal with certain issues or what some of the issues are that they need to deal with. And that book is also available. And then the other book that I wrote, because I was really concerned that we weren't able to have enough women in the Women's Leadership Retreat. So I wanted to make sure that more women could get to the concepts and do it themselves at home if they needed to. And so the first 12 years, Women Moving Forward, the first 12 years of the Women's Leadership Retreat is now available to everybody. And it has all the concepts of the first 12 years of the Women's Leadership Retreat. So you don't have to be at a certain level to get the book and go through it yourself, chapter by chapter.
By chapters, on your own. Yeah.
And then Managing Corporate Change, we hope will be done sometime in 2024, so we can get that out. We're looking for a publisher. So, we've self-published the other ones. We may self-publish this one too, because it gives us the most flexibility. And we want to reach all of the people that we have on our mailing list, and also all of the people that we work with. So we want to be able to go back to our client companies and say, hey, you may not be able to put everybody through our workshops, but here's the Managing Corporate Change book, so that you can see what the model looks like.
I loved it. And also that the staff can also, perhaps even buying it for the staff to read it, take some time.
Yep.
Reading is the best thing you can do, actually. Sometimes it's just
they're both, all the books, the 2 books we have now are available on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles, and you can get the reader version, so you can have it on your device and read it that way. You can download it.
Downloading it as well.
Yeah.
So what are some of the proudest achievements?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What are some of the proudest achievements you have experienced throughout your career?
I think the fact that the first time we went to China and we did a course that we have called The Survival of the Dual Career Marriage for Couples in Mainland China, for a company called Procter & Gamble. And so we had people in the workshop and their spouses. And it was fascinating to do how do you survive in a culture like China, where one person in the relationship may live in Shanghai and the other one may live in Guangzhou. And one of them has responsibility for the raising of the child and the other one doesn't. And how do you maintain your relationship around that kind of issue, which is the kind of thing that at the time was going on all over the place in China. Dual career marriages were suffering because people were separated. I think that's changed a little bit now, but that was a lot of what was happening in China during that period of time. And we got done leading the first workshop, and I said, my husband and I lead it together, and I said to my husband, this is amazing. It actually works in China with people from China. We're not in China working with Americans living in China. We're actually working with Chinese people in China, and from many different, there are so many different ethnic backgrounds that are represented in China. So you have like all different kinds of Chinese people who are attending the workshop. And the fact that our programs actually are culture-less, meaning they work in many different cultures across the world, was, I think, the biggest breakthrough for me, to see that we had created something that was helpful for so many people worldwide, as opposed to just the United States.
This is amazing.
Yeah. So that was the biggest thing for me. And then every time I've helped to save a woman's life, in that she sees another way to be other than the way she's being, and can then raise healthier children or have a better life for herself and her family, that also is one of my biggest accomplishments.
So could you provide a little bit of a glance into your upcoming book, which is the Managing Corporate Change? What are some of the key insights or strategy you'll be sharing with readers?
Yes, Managing Corporate Change is really a compilation of the model that we utilize when we teach people in our Managing Corporate Change courses. And they're usually 2.5 to 3 days. And sometimes we do a hybrid of Managing Corporate Change and Productive Relationships, which becomes a 4-day workshop. So they're learning about the change model and dealing with change. And they're also learning about how to communicate with people in 4 days. So the Managing Corporate Change model actually works in several different ways. So first of all, there is no stopping change in corporations. If there is one characteristic of all corporations, and particularly high-tech companies, it's constant churn, it's constant change. So once you learn how to deal with the change, you can then apply the model to any other change that comes years after. So it doesn't matter if you take the Managing Corporate Change model, take the Managing Corporate Change course next week. You can then next year, when another change occurs, apply the model to that. The first piece of the model is to deal, and this is very different than most other change models done in corporations. The first thing is to deal with the emotions of the change, because everybody has emotions based in what they have experienced in their lives with change. Nobody comes to us without experience. Everyone has an experience of a change, whether it's moving countries, or it's having a child, or it's getting married, or finding a partner, or any of that, or a parent dies. Everybody experiences change. So everyone has emotions already about change that you probably never dealt with. So one of the things we do on day one is to present the change model. And the first step of the change model is for you to identify what emotions are you having about this change, and how does that relate to the emotions from the past with regard to change. Wow. And you would be surprised how many people have emotions about the change related to their company changes from 10, 15 years ago.
Wow.
That have never been resolved. Oh. So every change becomes more crisis-oriented in their minds, because they've never gotten over the emotions to start with.
So when you do your workshops, your programs, it seems like you present them to organizations, corporations, but not actually individually can sign up to take those courses.
Yes, we have what we call community-based courses here in California, and sometimes in other places, where we invite people to sign up to take the courses from at many different companies, or not from companies, or they run their own business or whatever. So we've had a lot of people in those courses who are people who run their own business, entrepreneurs, especially love Managing Corporate Change, because change is inevitable as an entrepreneur. And we've had a lot of doctors and lawyers, interestingly enough, who have taken the course, Managing Corporate Change, because the model for medicine and the model for law is changing also constantly.
A lot. So now, how can someone, let's say individually, how can they actually sign up for one? For one
they can actually go to the website, So it's www.svanvleetconsult.com, and they can sign up for any of the workshops that are listed on the, it says register now, and it also has a listing of all the workshops with a description of every workshop. And you can look at all the descriptions and decide which one works for you now, and then go into the register now piece and register, scroll to where the workshop is and just check on it and register.
Register for it.
Yeah. So otherwise they can also send emails to us. So Van Vleet Consult at svanvleetconsult.com.
And now you have accomplished so much. And I know that you say you love, I feel like you are, a lot of people, we hide our ages because we don't want people to know it. But I felt like with you, you earn it, that age. You work hard for it. You went through the hell and the ups and the downs to get to where you are today. And I feel like you are very proud of it. But by the way, you do not look your age at all. If you didn't tell me, I would have probably said you are on your early 50s. That's what I would have said.
No, but when I get out of bed every morning, I know what age I am. I used to be able to get up and jog or run and then stretch after running, and now I have to stretch before I get out of bed.
Go to bed.
Yeah. But, I have two twin sons. I have a 41-year-old son and a 37-year-old son.
Wow.
And two grandchildren.
Sure.
So, and one beautiful daughter-in-law who sometimes works with me.
Oh, that you have an amazing family.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to individuals who are pursuing a career in training, consulting, or HR management?
Yeah, I think that you have to take every workshop and training program that's available to you. If you're in HR management, then you're responsible for a lot. And so I would recommend that you look at every training program, and if you can't go, then have somebody from your team go and assess all these workshops yourself. Not just ours, but everything that's offered, because there is so much that's offered out there, and there is so much that can benefit the people inside companies. So I strongly recommend that people in HR actually start doing these programs themselves and then bring it inside the company. And that gives you a broader view of what's happening. Sometimes HR gets very narrow for the company that they're in. The other thing I recommend is that they join PIRA or some of the organizations that deal specifically for HR managers, and you go to meetings and you learn so much more, not in your industry. So I know that a lot of HR managers are going to consumer programs for HR managers and consumer, or medical device HR programs for medical device HR people. But I think you need to get a broader view of what's available, and that's always helpful.
So you dedicated a very large amount of your life to support women.
Yes.
And as a woman myself, now the question I have for you, why?
Because I believe that women are the Jiminy Crickets, the story of Pinocchio and all that. I believe that women are the Jiminy Crickets of companies. I believe they're the ones with the value systems intact. And very often companies don't hear them, but they speak up more when they see that there's an issue that needs to be resolved, that's actual value-driven issue inside the company. And I'll give you an example. The woman who actually made Enron an issue was a woman who was consulting with Enron and saw what they were doing and found it out, and then spoke to other people about it, and then made sure that they were found out and were actually held accountable for their actions. So it's over and over and over again. If you look at the lawsuits for diversity and the law and some of the stuff that goes on in companies that get stopped, like sexual harassment, et cetera, usually it's women that are bringing that to the fore. And it's not like men aren't involved in helping that happen. But for example, the Nike model, where all of the top level women at Nike were upset with not getting promoted. And there was this band of men at Nike who were preventing that from happening. And so all of the top level women at Nike coordinated and did a study to show that women have left because of that, and the women that are still there are frustrated because of that. They left it on the desk of the CEO in the middle of the night, and he came in the next morning, looked at it, and said, oh my God, we need to do something about this. And not only did he fire the men who were involved in this little clique to keep women from getting promoted, but he also gave reparations to the women who had left because of it, because they couldn't get promoted. It was an amazing, first of all, he was wonderful. So men have a role in this, but it's women who are bringing this to people. They are the Jiminy Crickets of the world. The Northern Ireland issue was resolved by two women, one Catholic, one Protestant, who said, we can't have people dying anymore. If you look at all of the things that have happened in the world, a lot of times women are at the forefront of bringing it forward and making it better. So I decided that I would put my effort in my life behind women.
Well, I guess I asked you that to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
Because regardless who's joining this your programs, your workshops, where the women come from, where in the world, at the end of the day, I believe that we are all connected.
Yes.
And that message is passing on and passing on and passing on to the next and the next, yes. Which means you are helping a bigger picture than you think. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
So now, as a successful businesswoman, you have managed to balance your personal and professional life. Do you have any tips or practices that have helped you maintain a healthy work-life balance?
Yeah, I'm laughing because that it's always in a battle for me to make sure that I go swim 3 times a week, to make sure that I work out every morning. When I was younger with children, I mean, it is difficult. And we literally moved my parents to Colorado to help support us from New Jersey. They were living in New Jersey, and we said, we now have, a child. You really want to see him more. I can't keep coming back to New Jersey because I have all these responsibilities. Have you thought about moving nearby us to Colorado? And my mother said immediately, yes. My father had to be convinced, but my mother was ready to go that day if we would have brought and so I had a lot of help. I had my mother and father who were there a lot, and my father who had been an entrepreneur and ran a business, and my mother who had worked in several businesses in bookkeeping. And so they were there to support us in helping with the kids and helping with a lot of other things that we had to deal with. In addition to that, we had a lot of really good friends. I had a lot of really good friends who made sure that we were checking in with us and taking care of us and making sure that we were doing what we needed to do to be the people that we could be in the world, kind of thing, and with our children. And so I think that you have to build a very strong network of people around you, and not just a strong people in your company to network with, but everybody. Everybody can become a potential supporter in a network of yours, and to look at people that way as the potential that they are in your lives. And so the most important thing, if you're going to be taking on many roles at one time, mother, business person, et cetera, is to have a huge support system.
Well, I thank you so much, Susan, for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I know that I kept you longer than you are expected, but I thank you so much for all of the great advices and then also for supporting other women. And I do look forward to have this discussion with you again in the next 10 years to come to see what else you put out there.
Yeah, let me know. I'm here.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.